All right. Hello. Good evening or good morning. I guess wherever you're joining us from. Good afternoon, perhaps. This is Jim McKeeth. Welcome to Essential FastMM, our webinar today. Joining me is Permaz Gavlich. I'm not going to say your name right. I'm sorry. I'm lucky to pronounce mine right.
Hello.
Can you pronounce your name real quick for me?
Primož Gabrielčić.
Okay.
Don't try to repeat it.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I wasn't even close to my head. My kids take languages on Duolingo, and I've been taking some languages too. And I always like it has you. Some of the times it'll have you say the things, and I'm like, yeah, I got this. And yeah. Like I said, I'm lucky to pronounce English right, so it's always impressive. Anybody that's Duolingo or multilingual, in my opinion, is very impressive. So, yeah. All right. Let me share my screen here, and we'll get started. Screen. Hold on. This is not the configuration I wanted. Nope. All right, I guess it's this one. All right. Yeah, it's like I said, I'm Jim McKeeth from GDK Software, and joining me is Permaz. And now, I know you've written a few books, the High Performance Delphi and Design Patterns, and you also created the OmniThread library, and there's another library you made, wasn't there?
Yeah, I was part of the team behind Omni XML, which is now included in Delphi.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that got rolled into Delphi. I was a huge fan of that before it got rolled in, and when they rolled it in, I was like, good, because it was the way superior XML implementation, in my opinion. So fantastic. Okay, and if people want to find you online, it's Gabber GABR42, right?
Yeah.
All right.
The Delphi Geek.
The Delphi Geek. Where was I? Someplace I was following. I think I put a link in here about you, and I went to a website that was like an old blog of yours or something that was way outdated, which I'm sure I have some of those too now. But anyway. All right. So if you're not familiar with GDK Software, we are a Delphi consulting company focused completely on Delphi, and we have offices in the UK, US, Brazil, and the Netherlands. Our original office. We have 25 plus Delphi developers, 4 or 5 MVPs, I believe, and just really focused on Delphi. We also have Codelex, which is our low code solution, but it's more than just low code. It really is I think really cool. When I was first shown it, I was like, oh, another low code, great. But then I was like, oh, this actually does the things that I thought would be good for that. So definitely worth checking it out. It's now free, Codelex 2.0 at codelex.com. So for logistics, if you're not registered at that link there, mailing.gdksoftware.com/webinars, that is where we send out notifications about new webinars, slides, replay links, and such. And the best place probably to watch it is on our YouTube channel, although we do have it on LinkedIn and other places as well. The ability to send comments on some of those places is limited, so that's probably your best place to go if you wanted to leave a comment and get a reply during the live webinar, which will have the Q&A at the end. Although, if I catch it during the middle, can address it as we go too. Oh, wrong button. All right, interface. Always code to an interface, and always have a interface or an agenda at the start of your webinar. This is what we're planning to cover today. Introduction to FastMM, talk about some of the different features about it, and yeah. With that, let's get started. So I did the most essential Delphi add-ins back in May. Voting's still open, so if you want to vote, you can, although there's been a few votes trickling in, hasn't really changed anything. The top 3, we did DXperts before, was number 1. Number 2 was FastMM, and number 3 is MX Code Explorer, which I'm planning to do a webinar on later. But 36% of all respondents voted for FastMM in their top 4. Interestingly, FastMM was consistently number 2 in the votes, number 2 or number 3, and GXperts and MX Code Explorer were in the first place typically. So it was actually kind of interesting when I put this in here, because I put it in as I was thinking about the fact that you can use it from a debugging point of view. But from most people I talk to, they don't think about it from a debugging point of view. They think about it from just a memory manager point of view, which we're going to get more into the debugging features today. So it was kind of, I feel like it's number 2 for most people by default because it's built into Delphi, but I could be wrong. I didn't ask about that. So introduction to FastMM, if you're not familiar with it, it was developed in 2004 by Pierre. I emailed him and he said, asked him if he wanted to be on here. He's like, I'm kind of camera shy, but he did give me some information. He said it was developed as part of Delphi Fast Code competition, which a lot of code in Delphi today came in as a result of Fast Code. He was originally trying to improve performance and fix memory fragmentation, but then he said it really is not that innovative from a memory management point of view. I guess he's being modest. He said it was just an amalgamation of ideas from different people in memory managers. But he said the main advantage is as a debugging tool, which it does such a good job of that. It's available under 2 different open source licenses, LGPL or MPL. And it's also supported by donations. So if you do use it and you are using it, it might be nice to send him a donation to say thanks, because it's also included part of Delphi. So he also, if you're not aware of this, has a FastMM 5. Parmaz, do you use FastMM 5 at all?
No, actually, I do not.
Okay.
We are still at FastMM 4. It's good enough for us.
So he said one of the biggest differences, so it is faster. He did some benchmarks and it is faster. Although I was reading through some of the comments in the FAQ, someone said that, oh, I switched to 4. This is on 4, and my application is not faster. He said, well, depends on what your application is doing, right? If your application is spending 1% of its time on memory allocations and deallocations, then you're not going to get much of a speed improvement going to FastMM, either version. But if it is doing memory improvements, FastMM 4 is fast, 5 is even faster. But the big thing is it's fully configurable runtime. So as we'll see, that if you want to change the debug configuration in FastMM 4, you have to recompile it with options, whereas FastMM 5, you can change it at runtime. He's saying that he can actually deploy, someone in the field could be using it and be having issues using a program developed for 5, and they can remotely send them the stuff they need to do to turn on full debug mode, capture the information they need to reproduce the error to fix on the development side. Lots of other new features. It is available under open source GPL or commercial license. So GPL is great for if you're just using it for testing purposes or an open source project. But if it's a commercial application, you'll need to get a commercial license. But read the license, talk to a lawyer. One thing he pointed out, though, is that switching between memory managers helps uncover bugs. And so he says he primarily uses 5, but he also occasionally switches between 4 and 5 to uncover bugs. And that when FastMM 4 first shipped as part of Delphi, people were like, whoa, hey, FastMM broke my application. He said, no, it uncovered issues your application had in the way it was managing memory. And this is an interesting thing. A lot of people get upset when their application raises errors, but it's better that your application fails than silently runs with a potentially invalid state. At least, yeah, okay. I was gonna say that's my opinion, but maybe you have a different one. So yeah, you want these error messages to show up. That's a good thing. So Delphi has multiple memory managers. We have all these different platforms that you can run on with Delphi, and FastMM, so the FastMM that ships in Delphi only supports Win32 and Win64. The rest of them are POSIX based, and they have different memory manager. So we're not focused on those. POSIX is by IEEE Computer Society. It stands for Portable Operating System Interface. Yeah, we're not going to focus on that. But I didn't know this until I started digging into FastMM4. Apparently, it does have the full version that you can get from the GitHub has support for OS 10 x86. So if you are targeting Mac OS x86, you can use the full version of FastMM on there as well. So where does it live? If you go into system.pass, that mysterious source file behind the scenes, you usually don't get into that here. Oh, hey, I just got a bunch of people. I didn't notice I had comments here. Good morning. Okay, great. Yes, thank you. Oh my goodness, so good to see everybody. Hi. Okay, good. No urgent questions, but yeah, good to see everybody. Thanks for joining. If you go into system.pass, though, scroll down here to line 4817, you'll see include gitmem.inc. And include, that's where FastMM lives, or actually, I think there's other stuff in there as well for FastMM. Oh, it is using OS 10 here as well for Mac OS. According to DocWiki, the OS 10 32-bit. So according to DocWiki, FastMM is only on Win32 and Win64. But do you know for sure on that? I know you said you always use the full version of FastMM. Do you know if it's using it on Delphi or not for Mac OS? Pramas?
Sorry.
That's fine. Do you know, is the Delphi, the version of FastMM that ships with Delphi? Because I'm looking here at this now, and
that one. No, I really have no experience with Mac OS, so I only work on Windows and use FastMM on Windows.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so according to DocWiki, it is the different memory manager on Mac OS, but it's possible that's in here. So if you go into the gitmem.include file and scroll down here, you'll see that it's copyright Embarcadero, but has portions copyright by Pierre, and that those portions are from 2011. So that's when it was forked from FastMM4. So anything that's changed in FastMM4, which is a lot, is not included in the version that ships with Delphi, although anytime there's a fork, there's new features and bug fixes that have been incorporated into that as well. But then also, they didn't include all of FastMM. They didn't include all the debug features in the one that ships with Delphi. Oh, so Richard just pointed out that, yeah, that's right. This says Mac OS 32-bit, which hasn't been a thing for a while. So, yeah, I don't know. Might not be anything. Okay, so if you go to the full GitHub page, you can see it was last updated 5 months ago. It's got 164 commits, although Pramaz and I were just talking about this, that it actually, FastMM4 predates GitHub, being on GitHub. It was originally on SourceForge, I think. And so there was a ton of commits before that, plus it's version 4. So it's been around for a long time. Like Pierre said, it was originally from 2004, part of Fastcode. But 164 commits on GitHub. 439 stars, which honestly is not enough considering how amazing this is. So go out to GitHub and give it a star. There's 162 forks, which I took a little bit of look at those as well. 7 contributors, and oh yeah, okay, so here's the forks. If you go to GitHub, you can look at forks, and I sorted it both by most recently updated and number of stars. And this one here, FastMM4 AVX, is the top of both of those lists, which is supposed to be an improved version of FastMM with AVX instructions and more focus on multi-threaded or thread-heavy applications. So might be worth taking a look at that. I'm not really going to go into that today. If you do go into the networks, though, which shows you forks of forks as well, you'll see that, again, very active, very recently updated was this other fork of FastMM4 AVX, which if you go look at those, you'll see they actually merged back together into the original one. Maxim Matsutin. Have you looked at that at all, Pramaz? The other version?
I did look into AVX version, and it works. It is indeed faster. But alas, our customers are business customers, so sometimes our software runs on prehistoric machines which don't really have AVX instructions set. So
Yeah.
we did not switch. So maybe in a few years, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
You
hold
know
on.
how it goes.
I do. Yeah. It's yes. Let's see. I'm trying to change this. So I have a co-working space I'm in right now, and I always get things set up and think it's working, and then I get in here and it's everything's a little different, and I'm like, oh, that's not the way I wanted it. Let's see if that works. Screen share, window. It's the same. Okay, I was trying to get rid of the bars around the edges because that's bugging me, but I guess it's not a big deal. So the other top 4 contributors, I was surprised to see I was just number 2 or number 3, and Pramaz is number 1, the top contributor, which I wasn't surprised to see you, honestly, but I was surprised to see that I was on there, but I didn't do much. I made some images and a couple like slight, I think some documentation or something like that. Anyway, so not a lot has changed. It's been pretty stable over the years.
Yeah.
I did pull a list of all your changes, which are quite a bit, and I have let me hide the videos here. You can there's link to delphigeek.com and his GitHub page, and I highlighted the use release stack, which you said is something essentially you use all the time in your development. Do you want to mention that feature real quick? Use release stack.
Maybe we can talk about that when you explain the 3-in-1 concept, because it will fit into that part of the presentation.
Okay.
Okay, now you're clear.
Yeah. So the 3-in-1 concept is FastMM is 3 memory managers in one. It handles different, so it groups things into block sizes and then handles those differently. It pulls the large blocks straight from the top of the address space. It just passes that on to the OS. The OS gives it the big chunks, anything bigger than 260 kilobytes. For medium-sized blocks, it pulls from the bottom of the address space in a 1.25 or 1.25 megabyte chunks, and then takes those medium chunks and then turns those individual medium, that pool, it pulls medium chunk from that and then takes a medium chunk and converts it into a small block. And small blocks, everything in a pool, in a small block pool is the same size. When the medium-sized ones are freed, it recombines them back together, so there's never 2 adjacent free chunks or blocks. But then the small ones, it never recombines for performance, because 99% of your allocations and deallocations are small ones, and so that way it can change really fast and not have as much slowdown from that. Anyway, what do you want to add to that about your?
So to expand on your on what you just said, so in medium block pools, they're subdivided into smaller units which are managed by a linked list, basically. And small blocks are kind of array. So you can just get an element from that array or put it back, and that's very, very, very fast. And to speed up multi-threaded applications, FastMM has a nice hack. When you say I need, I don't know, 16-byte memory block, it will check the appropriate small block array. And if that array is maybe locked because some other thread is at the same time allocating 16-byte memory, FastMM will say, okay, then I will give you a 24-byte block that is not a big waste. And if this one is also locked, it will go one size higher. So it will check the size that you requested, the one size higher and 2 size higher, if they're maybe unlocked. And that speeds up allocation in multi-threaded applications incredibly. But you still have a problem when you do object.free, or even better, free and nil, because that's better. because when you do free, the object must return to the correct small block allocator, not to the one larger or two larger. And if that one is logged because another thread is doing free on the same size block, it will wait. So if you allocate and release a ton of very small objects very, very quickly from multiple threads, you will get blocks very, very quickly from the memory manager, but you will wait when you're putting them back, when you're releasing them. And the release stack is just that, a small, very small stack. And FastMM says, okay, this small block pool is now locked. Just put the block in this small release stack and don't care about it. And when the next thread comes around and says, okay, I want to release this one, this memory block, it will check this small stack and say, oh, there's more work for me. And it will return all of those objects to the small block. So you don't get blocked when you try to free objects. And that's something that I actually did to speed up our server applications, because we did get improvement with FastMM over previous Delphi memory manager. But sometimes some operations were still slow, and then I kept digging, and I did implement debug switch, lock memory manager contention, something like that. It's in the FastMM somewhere. And if you define it, it will tell you where in the code you have this problem, where in the code your threads are fighting to release data. And I did this use release stack to make this problem less visible. So we are using it from that time in our code, so I will say it's pretty well tested. And you can look at it as a small, very, very, very small garbage collector. And it will keep your memory in this very, very small garbage collector until it can be returned without waiting for a lock.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Makes sense. And so it's a garbage collector. So I like the way Delphi works for memory management in that you know when it's going to get freed. But then you're saying what this does is if it can't be free right away, it then waits until it can be. So it means it may persist slightly longer, but not going to just arbitrarily collect all my memory at some point in the future.
Yeah, and you really don't care about 10 blocks of 16 bytes if they're not returned to the system immediately.
Yeah. Okay, so memory manager configuration in the one that's built in, there's two things you can do in it, the configuration wise, or three things, I guess. You can change the minimum block alignment from 8 bytes to 16 bytes, which it says you may need if you're doing SSE memory movements, but you're potentially increasing the overhead. Oh, by the way, Paul just pointed out apparently the video is maxed out at 720p. I don't know why. I just saw that right as I was launching it, and I shouldn't have changed. Anyway, sorry about that. Hopefully you can still read everything out. My fonts are large enough. So you can change the block size, alignment size. You can have report memory leaks on shutdown, which is a fabulous feature if you're not using that. At the very minimum, if nothing else you get from this, you can turn this feature on in your debugging, and it makes a huge, huge, huge difference. Another one is never sleep on memory manager thread contention that you can turn on and off. And I'm curious if you use this much, Gabber, because I know that FastMM has the similar one. Because I was thinking about it, and it seems like, so my system here has 32 cores, and my other one has 24. Then there are laptops. So it feels like the number of CPU cores is really high today compared to the number of threads you have. So what are your thoughts on that feature? Is that something you use, or?
Never sleep on it. I was just checking our code because I don't remember. There are some FastMM settings which we just changed like 15 years ago, and they are inherited from the version control from generation to generation, and I don't know how they're set anymore.
All right.
I will check. I will tell you.
There's a couple of comments here. Ian says FastMM 5 is the first unit in all his project uses clauses. That's cool. Glad to hear, Ian. Question here about how to install and use it. I will show that here in as well. And then Hobby's asking, from a crypto and security point of view, are you still guaranteed the ability to finally wipe over the memory during destruction? There is a feature in the full FastMM to turn on to do that. It doesn't wipe by default,
because that's slow.
Because it's slow. But I will show you how to turn that on if that is something you're concerned about. You can both wipe on destruction and wipe on application terminate. Neither one of those happens by default. By default, it doesn't wipe on terminate. It could potentially leave it in memory.
But in connection with release tech, yes, finally memory will be released at some point through the normal FastMM mechanism, so all settings apply.
Yeah, so if you do hit turn on, it will.
It's just a small delay.
So now let's talk about the full FastMM. Like I said, frequently I'll put in a compiler directive that if I'm debugging, then I turn on the report memory leaks and shut down in my DPR file. Really useful to do that. Or you can say if I'm attached to the debugger, the other thing you could do as well. When you're debugging, it's really, really useful to get that report of memory leaks. One comment, and I hopefully, if you disagree with me on that, that's great. But one comment about memory leaks is that a memory leak on shutdown is only an issue if it's a leak that's getting bigger, because when you're shutting down, you're still freeing all your memory anyway. So if it's like one thing or something like that, probably not a huge deal, but still probably better to take care of that manually. Would you disagree with me on that one?
Sorry, I was looking for FastMM switches, didn't listen to you.
So I was saying that let's say you have something that you construct at one point in your application and you don't explicitly free it because you're keeping it in memory your entire time your application is running, and your application shuts down and says, whoa, you got a memory leak here. Not necessarily as big of a deal as something that keeps allocating things but not releasing them, because that's where you're going to use up a lot
of course. And if you have some small number of those constant small leaks, you can register them in your code so they are not reported.
Yep. Yeah, you can register them. So,
all right. But to answer your previous question, we don't actually use never sleep on thread contention.
Okay.
And it works just fine on modern CPUs.
Okay. How about the MMX? There's a option to turn on MMX instructions. Do you have that one turned on or not? Because I was like, that's in the documentation. It's like, leave this off to compatible with. It's off. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. To install and use the full FastMM.
Oh no! Sorry. No, we actually have enabled force MMX, so it forces this on without checking the CPU.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what I would think would make sense today, because it's AVX.
Yeah, nowadays you can safely assume that MMX instructions are supported.
Yeah. Because like Windows 11 won't install on a 32-bit hardware anymore. The 32-bit's kind of really. It technically still might have grown into it, but 32-bit hardware is pretty outdated, and 64-bit includes MMX. All right, so to use the full FastMM, you download it from GitHub, and then you add FastMM to the very top of your users clause in your DPR. Then you have to include FastMM.pass, FastMM options inc, and FastMM4 messages.pass in your search path, library path. And if you change the options, which is how you configure it, it recompiles those each time. So just giving the precompiled DCUs isn't the right solution for this. You want to recompile it each time. Well, I guess depending on how often you change it, but that's the way it's designed.
Actually, you have to rebuild because Delphi doesn't catch a change in include file.
Oh, yep, you're right.
Not always, at least.
Yep.
It's safer to rebuild if you change options.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then you can configure it via the include options, which I list some of them here, and I'm not going to really talk about most of them probably. I didn't even get through all of them. I was like, oh, I should put these up here so people can see them, but there's a lot. So do you have assume multi-threaded turned on or off then?
On always.
On. Okay, that's what I thought. It defaults to off, but I was like, yeah, on seems like more likely today. So the ones in italicized are off by default when you get it from the repository, but you can change it. Let's see. What's the other one I wanted to call out? Okay, full debug mode, which we're going to talk a little bit as well.
Okay, sorry, if I can point something out, just crossed my mind. If you go one more back.
One more back. Okay.
Yeah, it has this use custom fixed size move routines. You actually wouldn't want to enable this if you are using Delphi 12. Approximately at that time, Embarcadero implemented new move routines in the RTL, and they are much faster than those that are 20 years old. In FastMM, I don't remember, it was 11.2 time frame or was it 12.0, but move routines in the RTL were updated recently, and they are really, really fast now.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. So yeah, that's on by default if you do get it from the GitHub. So you want to turn that off. So full debug mode is it basically makes it adds a lot more checks and also does some things to make it more likely that if you're having some memory issues that they'll become obvious in testing instead of waiting till your poor users are using it. So again, it's better to get an error message than to have it in potentially an invalid state. So turn full debug mode on, and then these are the options underneath that as well. And there's 2 pages of options here. Again, the ones in italics are off by default, which full debug mode's off by default. But when you turn it on, you can then turn on these other ones as well. And you mentioned that you use the log memory leak details to file in when you're doing full debug mode to catch memory leaks.
Yeah, the one thing that you have to keep in mind with full debug mode is that it will never return memory to Windows. So in normal use, when you allocate lots of memory and release lots of memory, this allocated memory goes back to the operating system. In full debug mode, FastMM keeps everything that it got from Windows under its control all the time. So it will still allocate and release objects, of course, but it will never return memory to Windows. So technically, you can run out of memory in full debug mode while your application would run perfectly without it. But to be fair, I don't think that ever happened to me. So.
Yeah, we have.
It uses some magic to mark stuff that was released, and is currently not used, so that it detects when you want to use it again. But this is by far the biggest advantage the FastMM gave us when it came out. So that's why the full debug mode. That's why we switched to FastMM 4. That stuff pointed out so many bugs in code. Incredible number. Probably goes the same for Delphi.
So was it 2000 Delphi 2005 that incorporated FastMM completely, or was it 2006? I couldn't remember.
Don't know.
Don't know. Okay. I remember. So if I remember correctly, they started using FastMM in the IDE, and then the next release they rolled it out as the default memory manager in Delphi. And I remember when they started using it in the IDE, the startup time on Delphi like chopped in half. It was so much faster. But then, yeah, then when they released it, it made applications faster and pointed out lots of potential or lots of invalid states and memories that people were not aware of.
Yeah.
Okay, and then there's also, you can turn on memory leak reporting, which has a lot of sub options as well. And then I'll show the source code for the security options. So one thing, when you turn on full debug mode, you have to deploy the FastMM full debug mode.dll, and there is both a 32-bit and a 64-bit version of that. So make sure you deploy the right one. You have to turn on well, if you don't turn these other options on, it doesn't give you as detailed reports. So it makes it way more useful if you turn these on. Debug information, symbol reference info, and use debug DCUs. And you can turn on map file from the configuration, although you can use JCL, JDB, JDBG file, or a TD32 debug information, which I thought that used to be in the options as well, the TD32, but I couldn't find that one.
No, that was gone at some update. I don't remember when.
Yeah. It's the turbo debugger. So if you don't deploy the DLL, you'll get a dialog like that, which probably might be too small to read at 720. And yeah, just that means you got to reinstall it. Okay, so now let's take a look at, this is one of the demos. It's kind of cool. The usage tracker, you can go in, and actually I'll just show this. Let me fire up the ID. Oops. Let me fire up the IDE. Okay, I got to move this around here. Come on. And share. Where did the share go? There we go. Share. Screen. Entire screen. It's not letting, okay. It's not letting me share my screen. Let's move this around. I'll swap screens. Share entire screen. There we go. Okay, so I'm sharing my IDE here. Let me switch back to the other option. So this is one of the demos that ships with FastMM. Again, so if you go into the no, wrong one. There it is. FastMM is the top of the users clause. So that's what you have to include that, and then in the folder, show and Explorer, you can either include it in the folder here, which it probably isn't because it's the demo. It probably just points to it. The FastMM 4.pass, the messages, and the ink. Those three have to be included, and then the other pass files optional depending on if you're using those features or not. So this is the usage tracker, which I was kind of impressed when I ran it. I was like, oh wow, that's a lot of information. So you can bring it up here. I'll turn it on auto update for now, and it shows you the all the blocks, the allocations, deallocations, efficiency, and stuff here. You can also go into the VM graph, which will make this larger, and this shows you. You can go and look at individual blocks and see their status. So this is my program file. This is free, system reserved, system allocated, free. This is allocated by FastMM. You can go into the VM dump here and see what different DLLs are being loaded, what blocks for the blocks are. Let's see if we're scrolling here. Yeah, see there's more DLLs down here. Oops, scroll's the wrong one. It's always interesting, at least I think, when you look under the hood on things and you're like, oh, wow, there's a lot of information here I just completely wasn't aware of. And then just some general information you can pull as well, which could be useful, like, especially, I guess, if you're pulling it from a end user's computer, right?
What is that processor count? 32. Nice.
Yeah. Yep. And this is a laptop. Crazy. So that's the usage tracker. And then the other one I did here, so I was going to show the some of the options. So if you go into, oops, that's not what I wanted. Yeah, that's what I did. Go into, here it is. This is the options file where you can configure options. And so you go through here and look, and it's going to have, they're grouped by groups. It has a description of each option, and then they're nested to show if they're dependent on the above option. And it will also say, usually something along the line, yeah, this has no effect if the option enabled memory leak reporting is not also set. Let me get my font here slightly larger. So if we scroll on here to instruction set, you can, yeah, enable. Oh, so it says that the forced MMX has no effect if enable MMX
really?
is also set.
Oh, it's only used in the variable size move routines. Okay. But I'm not using custom move. So
Okay, so not a big deal. So then
not
let's
a big
see.
deal.
The other one you said we need to turn off is this one here, right?
No, the fixed size, I
Fixed
think.
size. Oh, fixed size. Okay.
Yeah, one, that one. Yeah, you don't really need that with modern Delphi.
This modern Delphi. All right. And then memory leak reporting, instruction set. Okay, memory sharing options. And then Hobby was asking about security. So by default, these are both turned off, but you can turn them on, Hobby, if you want it to be more secure. You can clear memory before returning to OS and always clear freed memory. Or alternatively, you could implement a custom destructor and do it too on certain objects, I suppose. Depends on your threat model, how much you want to get into that, disabling of clearing that. So I added this here as well because I thought this would be useful, especially for demo purposes. I made a routine, oops, it's putting things in the wrong window here, that will display all of the options that are set in your inc file. And so what that does here is it just goes through and does an if-def on each of those features, and then displays the prints out the feature if it's enabled or not. Although what I did is if it's a nested one, if it requires the feature above it, then it puts this dupe string where it puts a spacing in there. But I realized that you could still have the parent one disabled and then that one enabled, and it wouldn't. So I need to fix that. But it does give you some information there. So I was going to show. I will make a. Let's see. Oops, that's not what I want to do. Code, wrong button. All right, so we'll just do a T-string list create, and then we'll get a memory leak report on shutdown. Oops, opening on the wrong window. But it's logging it to a file. So if I go to view, projects, and then go into the folder. I didn't get it. What did I do wrong? let's try that again. Oh, I know what I did. I think I have it set to only do that if I'm debugging. So I ran it in debug mode. Here's the application. Close it. All right, so now I got the memory leak detected report, and it's also logged into a text file in the same folder. So I can go into here and into there, open that in Notepad, and now we can see a very detailed memory leak report in here. Very, very detailed. That's great. So we got Unicode string. The key string list is also leaked, and the 2 Unicode strings as well. So yeah, basically once you're in full debug mode, it's gonna, you do anything wrong in memory, it's gonna let you know. Depending on how you configure it, I'll be clearly. Okay, let me go look at questions here. So hopefully that explains how to install and use it. There used to be a utility, and I started looking at making one, but I didn't get it done, to configure the options file, but yeah.
It's very well documented.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Go look at the thing. It very well shows you what you're doing. Let's see. How can it help find the Unicode string not being freed? There was, okay, yeah, how can it find the Unicode string not being freed? There is a option for, isn't there an option that will like track where it was allocated from?
You get that in full debug mode report.
Oh, is it in the report? Okay, we'll go look.
Yeah. It's in the text file. You'll probably have to put it on full screen.
Yeah.
No, I mean the window.
Oh, yeah. That window there. Yep. Thank you.
Yep. So this stack trace is a location stack trace. What was called when this block was allocated. After construction, called do create, called for and create, and so on and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very easy to track why and where was this allocated.
I thought there was a place that would give you line numbers.
They are there in square brackets. System get mem line 4962.
Oh, yep. Okay, right there. There it is.
For and create line 31. Takes some time to find the appropriate line, which is not
line 31. There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully that answers your question, Peter. That's really useful. Yeah. So it tells you, yeah, just got to find it.
String that is not freed is typically part of some other structure, but yeah, it will show it nevertheless.
So let's see.
This was block belonging to the string list when the string list grew.
Yeah.
And so on.
Belong to string list.
That's the string list object itself. That's the string stored inside the string list.
Yep. And again, tells me my line right there, where I added the thing to the string list. So yeah.
And you get the aggregate report at the end in the last block. So many blocks of this size, and so on.
Yeah. I find when I have the memory leak reporting turned on, it goes back to like some of the sooner you catch bugs, the easier it is to fix, right? So doing all your development in full debug mode with memory leak reporting turned on, and then you start, no leaks, no errors. You make a small change, you run it, you got a leak and error. It's probably that one change you just made, right? That when I was a team lead for a development team for a while, and I had one developer that he had a tendency to go in to fix one thing and then usually make a lot of other small, like, oh, this is wrong, and blah, and then you check it all in as one commit. And I'm like, no, you're a surgeon. Go in, do the one thing you're trying to do, because then we know, if something happens, we know why that happened. And only fix the things you're supposed to be fixing. If you want to, other stuff needs to be addressed, we'll address that separately. Anyway. Yeah, so hopefully answered questions there. Any other questions? Put them in the question panel here, and we'll do our best to get them answered for you.
Nothing else so far.
Yeah. Oops. Oh, that's interesting. Can see the code. All right. So I'll bring up the page for FastMM 5, actually. Where is that at? Oops. All right, let's do this. There it is.
Screen layout.
Oh, yes, thank you. Oh, that's an older comment. Okay. So this goes through and lists some of the new features in FastMM 5. 64-byte alignment of all blocks. I get this. There's probably some reasons you'd want to do that, but that seems like that might introduce a lot of overhead. And like I said, the biggest thing is that you can, or at least according to Pierre, the biggest thing is it's fully configurable at runtime. So you can change, you don't have to recompile your application to change the debug mode configuration and settings and stuff like that. So if you are using this, you can go out here and you can buy a license for this. Now, I was thinking about this, and he mentioned that the importance of switching between memory managers for debug purposes, that you could use 5 for debugging, right, to help find bugs between 4 and 5, but you should really buy a license too and support it as well. Have there been any other memory manager schemes used for Delphi that don't extend from the FastMM family? Yes.
But Scale MM, for example.
Yeah.
And Scale MM too. But I don't know if there's any that's actively supported at the moment. Scale MM is definitely old at this time.
Yeah.
Do not recommend. I think Nexus had their own memory manager for some time and so on. There are some, yes, but nothing comes close to FastMM.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. As I remember, before FastMM, there was a lot of other memory managers out there, and but then after FastMM, so FastMM is like, oh wow, this is great. Kind of everybody like agreed this was a good one, and then once Delphi incorporated it, it was like it's kind of sometimes that happens, right? You see something is rolled into Delphi, and then like the innovation goes away, which is kind of a bummer. But at the same time, it gives everybody a really, really good one. And honestly, I think FastMM probably was, for 90% of the use cases, the best memory manager out there. So it's a good thing in that regard. There was a way back in the day, I remember, oh gosh, who was it? Barry, I can't remember his name. He worked on the compiler a long time ago.
Yep.
And he made a garbage collecting memory manager for Delphi. but this was a long time ago, and I can't remember what that one was called. So yes, there are
Barry
other ones.
Kelly.
What was it?
Kelly.
Kelly. Yes, Barry Kelly. Yep. And I think I still have the podcast with him. I haven't gone. Every now and then someone will say, "Hey, I tried to listen to one." Yeah, podcast 3 from 8. Every now and then I'll get someone to tell me that like one of my podcast links broken.
You were talking about garbage collector for Delphi, I see.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Those nuggets playing. I might have to go out and... Oh, that's right. It was on Cyber Ears. Okay. I'll have to go fix that. I do have a backup copy of those. Graham Grieve did a talk on avoiding double frames and mentioned a modification to FastMM in order to tag tracks. What's that?
Double freeze.
Yes. There is an option for that. Yes.
Full debug mode detects that.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, without full debug, I think it doesn't by default. I don't remember an option for that.
So there is a full debug mode. So there's uses a interface of a freed object.
That's for interfaces.
Yeah.
Can't use a freed.
There is one here for full debug or for double freed. Yeah, right here. Check for heap corruption. Catches attempts to free the same object twice. Let's do that. So now instead of memory leak, we're going to free it twice. So there we go. FastMM detected an attempt to call a virtual method on a freed object. An access violation will now be raised in order to abort the current operation. So I hit OK.
And that's full debug mode in action, yes.
Yep. And then here is the access violation. So I turn off full debug mode.
It gives you the stack for first deallocation, for the second one, so you can compare them.
And if we go in here, yep, there it is. There's a line number.
And all the stacks, yes.
Full stack. And if I turn off full debug mode, I'll turn off the heap.
No, that's not that one, but it's really the full debug mode.
Full debug mode? Okay.
Yeah. Check heap for corruption will find memory overwrites. And
so that just gave me an integer pointer operation, but no reporting there. So I don't know if I didn't see if that's something he contributed to FastMM. I think it's been in there since the beginning. I don't. So it's just an option you have to turn on and off with full debug mode. So that's the thing, is that you're modifying the include file to change the behavior each time. So. Yeah.
But if you use a build server, as you should, so this is not a problem. You have debug configuration on developer machines and release configuration on the build server, and don't have to change anything. Just use full debug mode always.
Yes, exactly.
While debugging, not for release, definitely not for release.
Yep. Yeah. So exactly, when you're doing your development on your machine, you are, you want things to fail immediately if they're not right. But then on production, you want it to, you want to have that a consistently reproducible exactly. I've worked with certain people that don't do that, and it's really clear in the effort they put into supporting their application. It becomes a lot of work. RD is asking if we follow the progress of Lazarus 3 Pascal. I don't that closely. I'm aware of it. I think it's interesting, but I haven't had. I don't follow it that closely. Sorry. Okay, Paul says that was it.
It was this, and I think we lost the hyperlink. It was filtered out, maybe.
That
was about the Graham
Greene
memory manager change.
He has a memory manager at the top of the existing memory manager that will overwrite freed memory with EBs.
Oh yeah, okay. That's what full debug mode does.
Yeah, that's what full debug. Yeah, and if you go into so there's a lot of information if you go into the README and the FAQs here that explains a lot of different things about it, and then the include file explains how all of these different features work. And there is one that does the that talks about doing exactly that. And so it's possible that he wrote a utility on top of it as well, but it's built into FastMM too, which it's good to have a choice, I guess. Okay, interesting. So he did you could do that. And that, honestly, this is one of the things I love about Delphi. And it's not perfect, but I love the fact that because most of Delphi is written in Delphi, you can make your own memory manager. I was talking to a CTO of a company, I guess it was a while back now, and he was saying that when you're starting up building this application, everybody's like, oh, you should use Electron. It'll make it really easy to build your desktop application. And so he did. He started Electron and hired a bunch of Electron developers, and then discovered that they could make the UI nice, but the functionality, the core functionality of what his application needed didn't exist in Electron. So then he had to hire another team of developers to develop the components that the Electron developers were using in the Electron application. And he said it ended up being way more headache having two teams that were doing different things and stuff like that. And so I love that about Delphi, is that you can rewrite your memory manager. You can rewrite however you want to in Delphi, all with one team, and get it done. At the same time, if you need to integrate with other tools and libraries and languages, you can too. But okay, well, that is it, I think, for today. Let me bring up my slides. I think that's it for the slides, but I'll double check. So RD's asking if involved with FastMM official implements for free Pascal. I'm not. Gabber or
me neither.
Mark?
No,
you're not. Okay.
No, I'm not doing anything with free Pascal.
Yeah, that's it. So thank you so much for joining. Again, let me bring up the link again at the beginning. If you're not signed up for the mailing list, suggest you do. We'll email out about future webinars. I'm trying to evolve the way this works to make the content more consumable. So stay tuned to that for details, and I'll see you around. Thanks so much for joining me today, by the way, Pramaz.
Yeah, no problem. If I might insert a plug here.
Yes, please do.
I have a whole chapter on FastMM4 in my book on Delphi high performance. So if you want to learn more,
it's the Delphi Geek, right?
The Delphi Geek, yeah. The first one.
Yep.
This one deals with performance in Delphi on all levels, but one of those levels is memory manager. So there's a chapter on FastMM4 with all the details, how the small block memory allocators are working and so on.
Yeah.
Just if you want to learn more than you heard today.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, I should mention Dalia's.
Dalia Prashnikar. but I don't remember the name of the book.
It's like Delphi memory management, and it doesn't specifically get into
The first one.
FastMM, but it does. It is a good book, and everybody. So I was going to say, everybody I've talked to, occasionally I'll talk to someone and they're like, I'm having this weird problem, and it's like usually I point into one of these books, and every time they read it, like, how have I gone this long without knowing these things? It blows people away. Just some of the fundamental stuff that we just completely miss that you're going to pick up. So yeah, there's this one, and then Delphi memory management. That's not the website I was expecting to go to. Yeah, that's the one by Dahlia.
Yeah, but that's the correct book. Yeah.
Yep, that's the book.
Well, there exists a website called Delphi-books.com.
Yes.
So people monitor it, read books about Delphi. Delphi dash.
This external monitor I have is just a little small. So there, Expert Delphi, which is the second edition with Marco. There's your high performance Delphi. Yeah, good source there. Yes, thank you for reminding me.
There's lots of them.
Yep. Which is exciting to see.
Yep.
And then as Patrick, who maintains this website, Patrick.
Yeah.
Well, gosh, he was the Spirit of Delphi Award winner. Thank you, Patrick. Congratulations. Pointed out that tomorrow is the 12.2 preview webinar. So hope to see you all on there for that. I think if we go here to the homepage, I won't be presenting. I'll just be attending. But all right. Thank you so much again, everybody. Thanks for reminding me about your book. And good to know that you have a whole chapter on it. So fantastic. Take care, everybody. Bye.